Big day. President Trump is doing what I believe is the biggest free market reform of health care in a generation. This reform, if it works and goes as planned, will allow millions of people to get insurance across state lines at an inexpensive price. I'm very glad to be part of this, and I really want to commend the president for having the boldness and the leadership and the foresight to get this done.
Well, and Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky joins us now. Mike Barnicle.
Senator, if you could please explain to me the demographics of this proposed plan. If a 25-year-old healthy person fits in under this, what happens to the 65-year-old unhealthy person? And the backup question to that, prior to your answer, excuse me, is how have we ended up giving so much power to the insurance conglomerates in this country at the expense of average citizens?
The interesting thing about this proposal is that if you get group insurance under this proposal, or any group insurance in our country, they can't discriminate, and that's been that way for a long time. So if you have a pre-existing condition, you can still get any group insurance in our country. It's the same as if you work for a big company. They don't discriminate based on your illnesses. And the interesting thing is, the insurance that we're talking about through health associations is exactly the same insurance that big corporations like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Amazon, Microsoft, this is what they have for their employees. So this is something that most people strive for and would like to have. If you talk to a welder or a plumber that has to buy insurance for them and their spouse, or a small town doctor, a lawyer, or accountant, they hate the fact that they're buying in the individual market. They would rather have what big corporations have. This proposal will let you become part of a group like a corporation and have leverage, which goes to your second question. Insurance companies have all the power, and they lord it over people in the individual market. And right now, the insurance companies are extorting us in Washington and saying, hey, we just won't sell it to these people. We don't give a damn whether they have insurance or not. We won't sell it unless you give us more money. What I want to do is do an end around on the insurance companies and say, guess what? What if 15 million people are organized? How are you going to say no to 15 million people? So I think what we're trying to do is empower the consumer to bargain collectively and really equalize the equation between insurance companies and the consumer.
But what makes you think, after all these years of dealing with these inequities that fracture the economics of health care in this country between healthy young people and older, sicker people, what makes you think that you can all of a sudden get this done when nobody's ever been able to get it done?
Well, it's economies of scale, and economies of scale work elsewhere in the marketplace. The reason why Walmart or Amazon or anybody else can get you things at a cheaper price is because they have the economy of scale. They buy things in huge numbers. I think we can totally transform the economic equation and dealings that we have with insurance companies if we empower millions of people to join together. This has never been done before. We've had small associations, a couple thousand people. We've never had a million-person association. But look, the international franchisees are interested in this. They have 700,000 members, 12 million employees with franchisees. National Restaurant Association's interested. National Realtors are interested. And the thing is, I talk to Democrats and I tell them, look, this is collective bargaining for the consumer. How could anybody be opposed to it? Some people are still caught up on, well, maybe it'll evade the Obamacare regulations. Half of the big companies in our country already have this. Why would we deny the individuals what we let big corporate America have in providing insurance for their employees?
Senator Paul Donnie-Deutsch, very simply, explain to me why this is not the case. I can't afford health. Let me make my statement that this enables, to Mike's point, a young 24-year-old healthy person to opt out, and it leaves in there people who can't afford and now will be paying higher premiums. That is the simple pushback on this.
Yeah, but it's wrong, because these associations won't discriminate. They can't by law. And if you have group insurance, it's no different than if you work for Microsoft and you're one of thousands of employees and you get sick, Microsoft's not allowed to fire you or take away your insurance. And because you're part of a large pool, your price doesn't go up so much. So these are the exact same rules that will be in group insurance in these associations. They still will have some rules. They won't have all the rules of Obamacare, but neither does 50% of the current market. All of the big corporations that are in multiple states in our country already get to evade some of the regulations. But guess what? That's why the premiums in the ERISA plans, these cross-state plans, the premiums have been going up 2 or 3% a year, whereas in the individual market, they're going up 20, 30% a year. So what I'm trying to do is say, look, let's don't subsidize something that's never going to work, the individual market. Let's let people get the hell out of the individual market. Let's give them an escape route, and let's let them join group plans. People have been thinking about this since the 90s. It's been offered, but we've never been able to get it through. I'm still looking at Democrats to try to get legislation through as well. I've talked to about 20 Democrats in the Senate. I've not had one of them push back, other than that in the middle of this Obamacare debate, nobody wanted to work with the other side. Yeah. This could be a bipartisan issue that has nothing to do with repealing Obamacare, has everything to do with expanding the marketplace to give people more options.
Casey Hunt.
Senator Paul, back in 2013, you introduced a bill to prevent President Obama from pushing executive actions. You said, quote, "I'm afraid that President Obama may have this king complex sort of developing." Can you explain to me why it's different now? Why are you supporting President Trump doing this via executive order?
I think it's different if you're creating a new program or creating something new that wasn't instituted in law. What President Trump did yesterday is look back at the original law and say, were the regulations that were passed after the law by the bureaucrats consistent with the law? And we don't know, we don't have the final ruling yet, but that's what they're looking at. Are the regulations that were passed consistent with it? I think there's also something unique about association. In the First Amendment, it says you have the right to peaceably assemble. The court has interpreted that as the right to freely associate. In NAACP versus Alabama, and also in Roberts versus USJCs, they said that if you have an economic interest, you want to get together with your fellow men and women to get an economic benefit, that is a fundamental right. So I think it's protected under the First Amendment, also under the privileges and immunities of the 14th Amendment. And I think all we've done here is legalize what is, I think, a natural right to associate with your fellow man. And so I don't see this at all using executive action to create something that the law didn't intend. I think it's consistent with the law and consistent with the Constitution.
All right, Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Up next.